Hi everybody. What's going on? Did not transition. Hey, I'm Skip Alzheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime Streaming Show. Yeah, that was some very warped 16mm film that was curled. And it was so curled that we ran it backwards. And then I forgot to fix the and make it go forwards. But there you go. That's some New York scenes. And yeah. So we watch old 16mm films. And the first one we're going to watch is Triangles, Types, and Uses. Enjoy.
Have you ever cut across a vacant lot? We know it is shorter to walk this way than it is to walk around the corner. One way to find out how much shorter is to count your steps. But there is another, more accurate way. We'll find out about it as we learn about triangles. As you probably know, a triangle is a closed figure having 3 sides and 3 angles. We can also define a triangle this way: a figure composed of 3 points and the line segments connecting them. Triangles are not only important to us in mathematics, but are also commonly used as an important element in architecture and in engineering design. We can identify triangles by relationships among their sides. In an equilateral triangle, the 3 sides are equal. With 2 equal sides, we can form an isosceles triangle. A scalene triangle has no 2 equal sides. The perimeter of any triangle is the sum of the lengths of the sides of the triangle. Triangles are identified not only by their sides, but also by their angles. Since this triangle has one obtuse angle, that is, one angle which measures more than 90 degrees, it can also be called an obtuse triangle. A right triangle is a triangle having one right angle. An acute triangle is a triangle that has 3 acute angles, that is, the measure of each is less than 90 degrees. The total number of degrees in the 3 angles of any triangle is 180 degrees. Thus, whenever we know the size of 2 angles, we can always find the number of degrees in the third one. With 2 triangles, we can demonstrate congruency. This is another important concept. By indicating the line segments this way, we can see how triangle ABC fits exactly or coincides with triangle XYZ. Line AB coincides with line XY, BC with YZ, AC with XZ. Angle A coincides with angle X, B with Y, and C with Z. We see that if 2 triangles are congruent, all 6 parts of one triangle, 3 angles and 3 sides, are equal respectively to the 6 parts of the other. The triangles are also equal in area. Congruency will help us demonstrate how we derive this formula for the area of a triangle. Area equals 1/2 the base, B, times the height, H. First, on the base of the triangle, we construct a rectangle. The rectangle and the triangle both have the same base, B, and height, H. We see that triangle AFC is congruent to ADC. We know that these two congruent triangles are equal in area. In like manner, triangle CBE is congruent to CDB. We know that these two congruent triangles are equal in area. Thus, triangle AFC and triangle CBE together are equal in area to the area of our original triangle, ACB. We know that the area of a rectangle equals the base times the height. So 1/2 the base times the height must equal the area of a triangle. If the original triangle has a base of 10 inches and a height of 5 inches, the triangle has an area of 25 square inches. One of the most important theorems about triangles was credited to the Greek mathematician Pythagoras. It became known as the Pythagorean theorem. The Pythagorean theorem applies to all right triangles. The hypotenuse is the side opposite the right angle. In the theorem, the area of the square on the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the areas of the squares on the other two sides. In this right triangle, the sides are 3 units, 4 units, and 5 units in length. Using the Pythagorean theorem, let's see if the measure of this area plus the measure of this area is equal to the measure of the third area, the square on the hypotenuse. We proceed as follows. 3 squared is 9. 4 squared is 16. 9 plus 16 equals 25, the square on the hypotenuse. Using this theory, we can always find the third side if we know the other two. Remember the problem we saw earlier? The Pythagorean theorem will help us find out how much distance this boy is saving. We'll use as our unit of measure a section of sidewalk. The path which is made by his crossing is the hypotenuse, C, and we wish to find its length. Sides A, B, and C form a right triangle. The length of side A is 20 sections of sidewalk, and the length of side B is 15 sections of sidewalk. Using the Pythagorean theorem, we can find the length of the unknown side, C, since we know the lengths of the other two sides. Our formula for calculating any one of these distances, when the other two are known, is A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Side A measures 20 units. 20 squared is 400. Side B measures 15 units. 15 squared is 225. The sum of these two squares is 625. When we take the square root of 625, we find it is 25. 25 sections of sidewalk is the length of side C. The other two sides, 20 and 15, total 35. Subtracting 25 from 35 gives us 10. The boy has saved himself 10 sections of sidewalk. In this problem, we have a ladder 24 feet long. The distance from the bottom of the ladder to the wall is 6 feet. What then is the distance from the ground to the point where the ladder is resting against the wall? In this case, we want to find the length of side B. Using the formula A squared plus B squared equals C squared, we can make the following calculations. Side C, representing the ladder, is 24 feet long. 24 squared is 576. Side A, the distance from the bottom of the ladder to the wall, is 6 feet. 6 squared is 36. Subtracting 36 from 576 gives us 540. This is the square of side B. To find the length of the side, we take the square root of 540, which is 23 2/10. Side B, the distance from the ground to the point where the ladder is resting against the wall, is 23 2/10 feet. How to find the length of an unknown side of a right triangle is just one of the important things we have learned about triangles. We have also seen that triangles can be identified according to the measures of their sides or their angles. We learn to find the area of a triangle by using the formula area equals 1/2 the base times the height. As you continue with your study of mathematics, you'll find that the solutions to many kinds of problems depend on your knowledge of triangles.
Oh yeah, everything you wanted to know about triangles, but were afraid to ask. So behind me, so somebody mentioned, like, you know, when I always gesture to the scanner, that that hasn't changed. It's always the same shoulder. But the thing is, like, so when I'm looking at OBS's webcam thing, it's not a mirror. So immediately you fall back to, like, oh, I'm looking in a mirror, so I do this, and it doesn't. It's off. So yeah. So I'm always wrong. It seems like. So it's like, oh, I should do the opposite of what I think it is. So anyways, behind us we have the scanner, and let me change this real quick. That was my doorbell. This title is Martin the Snake Charmer. Enjoy.
A large blue ocean. The island of Sri Lanka. A large blue ocean. Sri Lanka is my homeland, and I am Martin the Snake Charmer. Sri Lanka lies like a pearl in the Indian Ocean. Its name is fitting. Sri Lanka means the shining land. Sri Lanka is close to India, just southeast of its southern tip. But it is very small in comparison. Even so, our population is always growing. Today, there are over 16 million people. Colombo is the capital of my country, and it is an important city. Every day, tea, raw rubber, coconuts, and precious stones are shipped out from its harbors. The capital is also the center of world of tourism, which has become an important source of income for both the island and me. Now it is time to visit my part of the country, Gypsy country. You can find my family where the roads disappear and the jungle closes in. Here I am with my friend Raja. We're about to go fishing in a nearby lake. Long time ago, my forefathers sailed from India to Sri Lanka, which was once an English colony called Ceylon. My people have traveled all over the island without ever settling in one place. That is why the others call us gypsies or nomads. There aren't too many of us on the island. We even speak a different language from most. Our language is Telugu and originally comes from southern India. There's another thing that makes us different from the rest of the children in Sri Lanka. Raja and I have never been to school. Instead, we help support our families by earning money. We have a very unusual trade, learned from secrets passed down from father to son for many generations. We are snake charmers. The village I live in houses about 40 families and is located deep in the jungle. My family has 6 people. My 3 sisters, my mother, my father, and me. Our home is the large hut. The small hut on the right stores dried foods and other supplies. We need these things to protect ourselves against problems in the future, like illness or food shortages. At night, we take down the mats hanging on the wall and roll them out on the floor to sleep on. All the boys and men in our village become snake charmers. We begin learning as soon as we can walk. My friend Raja and I were only 8 years old when we first traveled to the city to earn money for our families. We must listen carefully to our fathers when they teach us about snake charming, because one bite from a cobra contains enough poison to kill 15 people. My grandfather is the chief of the village, and when he brings out his snakes, everyone gathers to watch. Everyone in our village works. The women are in charge of the heavy work at home. They cannot charm snakes, but they have learned to read palms so that they too can travel and earn money. Next year, when we are 15 years old, most of my friends and I will get married. My father has chosen a girl for me, and I do not even like her. I like another girl who I must meet secretly. This is a hard decision for me. If I do not marry the girl my father has chosen, I may be cast out of my family. My father learned the art of snake charming when he was little, and it was his responsibility to pass it on to his son, me. The cobra is a poisonous snake found in the tropical forests of Africa and Asia. It is also called the eyeglass snake because of its beautiful design. When the cobra senses danger, it lifts up its head and neck and spreads out its ribs. When it bites, it releases a poison into the sore that attacks the nervous system and usually causes the victim to die of suffocation. Snake charmers use a flute to attract people and make their act more entertaining. The snake cannot enjoy the music because it has no ears. Snakes are deaf and react only to vibrations, smells, and movements. Snake charmers can make the cobra dance by catching its attention when they move their hands or knees in time to the music. Here my father shows me how to protect myself from snake bites. This magical piece of wood usually keeps the snake from biting. It doesn't always work, so my father has taught me how to survive a cobra bite. First you use a knife to cut away some of the flesh around the bite. Then you place a small stone over the sore and press hard. According to my father, the stone gives out an anti-poison that makes the snake's poison harmless. My family is running out of money, so father wants me to go to the city to work. I've packed my belongings and I'm ready to walk the long road to Colombo, barefoot. Raja also needs to earn money, so we will journey together. I'm glad my friend is coming along because being away from home for a month can get lonely. After walking for a few days, we come to one of our favorite spots to rest, Kalavala Lake. We must set up camp before dark, but first, it's fun to splash and play in the water. But then we have to check up on our workmates. It's important to have a healthy, aggressive snake. The snakes spend most of their time in our little homemade baskets, and they feel as safe and as comfortable as if they were in their own little hole. We don't have to worry about feeding them because they usually go several months between meals. The cobra is considered one of the most dangerous snakes in the world. It kills about 10,000 people every year. Even snake charmers can get killed, especially if they're drunk. That is why Raja and I have sworn never to drink alcohol. Some snake charmers abuse their snakes. They sew the mouth shut or beat the snake so much that it cannot bite. But we are genuine snake charmers, and we have learned the art so well that we will never have to cheat. The first thing we learned is not to show fear. The snake reacts much like a dog. If a person is afraid, the snake can get nervous and may bite. We think about these things as the sun sets. At night, our loincloths, or what we call sarongs, become blankets, and our shirts and the snakes in the baskets make nice pillows. These are the only things we own in the entire world. It is morning now, and we must be on our way. Instead of toothpaste, we use sand or colored ashes. My finger is the perfect toothbrush. In order to save time, we have decided to take a shortcut. we must watch out for the wild animals in our country. Here is a 6-foot iguana lizard digging for something to eat, but it doesn't seem to notice us. If we were at home, we would have killed it to make a festive dinner, but we are in a hurry. Colombo is still far away. One animal that sometimes attacks is the wild Asian elephant. A full-grown male can weigh up to 6 tons. We usually find them by water holes where they drink and cool themselves. Elephants live about as long as we do, but they eat a lot more food, about 400 pounds of vegetables a day. We have decided not to disturb the elephants, so we choose another road. Late in the afternoon, we come upon a Buddhist temple. We have been raised to worship Buddha, like most of people in Sri Lanka. We show our respect by placing flowers at Buddha's feet and saying a short prayer. The Buddhist New Year begins in the middle of April, and we celebrate with firecrackers. Now it is raining, so we run to the nearest bus stop for shelter. We decide to take the bus and save several days of wandering. But the buses in Sri Lanka are always full. And if we're unlucky, we will have to stand all the way to Colombo. Here we are at the outskirts of our capital city, where there are many tourist hotels. A good place to begin, especially since the money we brought with us is almost gone. Raja is trying to get the tourists' attention. Perhaps they would like to see our snakes. One time a tourist gave me 300 rupees, or $10, to see my snake. To me, this is a great deal of money. Soon a crowd of hotel guests gathers. To them, we may be the most exotic sight in Sri Lanka. So they take the photos to show their friends and relatives who live in faraway lands that we'll never see. To us, tourists are a means of survival. Before our show is over, Raja goes around and collects money from the audience. We just earned 57 rupees, a good profit. Thank you. Now it is time to eat dinner. The rice and vegetables packed in newspaper and banana leaves taste good after a hard day of work and travel. For about 2 more weeks, we will travel around the city to earn money for our families. Hopefully, we will have thousands of rupees to carry during the long trip home. This is my life and my story, because I am Martin the Snake Charmer.
Today, viruses are a subject we hear about more and more. We all know the word virus. To most of us, it means a cold or the flu. But what is a virus? Is it a plant? An animal? Is it even alive? For most of us, the only time knowing about viruses becomes important is when we're ill. Usually, a viral infection is just a mild annoyance, a few days of discomfort and lots of fluids. But an infection of herpes virus can mean outbreaks of painful sores again and again for a lifetime. And having this virus flourishing in your blood means a life cut short by AIDS, acquired immune deficiency syndrome. The first thing that must be learned about viruses is just how incredibly small they are. With a light microscope, we can see protists, single-celled plants and animals, fractions of a millimeter long. With the highest power of this microscope, we can just make out another life form, bacteria. These dark specks streaming in the currents. But even smaller than bacteria, and invisible to the light microscope, are the viruses. To see viruses requires this, an electron microscope. An average virus is 1/10,000th of a millimeter in diameter. Turning the magnification up to 50,000 times, they come into view. Dozens and dozens of spherical viruses. Even at this extreme magnification, these viruses look fuzzy and indistinct. To get a clear picture of the structure of a virus requires a special technique called X-ray crystallography. Dr. James Hogle is a researcher in the molecular biology group at Scripps Clinic in California.
There are two major differences between X-ray crystallography and light microscopy. First, a lens cannot be used to refocus the X-ray image. Second, it's impossible to measure the X-rays scattered from a single virus particle.
Since a single virus particle is too small to be visualized directly, the first step in X-ray crystallography is to bring together trillions of virus particles into a workable mass. This can be done by putting a solution of viruses into a small hard plastic container and covering the container opening with a thin tissue called a membrane. The membrane is semi-permeable, which means that the small molecules and ions in the virus solution can move out of the chamber, but the virus particles cannot. The result is that slowly the viruses become less and less soluble, and eventually they form crystals. Each crystal is made of trillions of virus particles packed in symmetric arrays. The regularity of the crystal allows the information on the shape of a single virus to be assessed. To get this information, the virus crystal is placed in a glass tube mounted on an X-ray machine. X-rays aimed at the crystal are scattered into a regular pattern that's recorded on film. This is a picture of that scatter. It is called an X-ray diffraction pattern. Many of these patterns become part of a complex mathematical analysis that produces a kind of three-dimensional map. The map shows the locations of the atoms in the virus structure. With these maps, a knowledge of chemistry, and a bit of intuition, scientists are able to construct a model of a single virus particle. We've learned that typically a virus has two basic parts: a protective outer layer of protein, sometimes coated with a fatty membrane, and an inner core of nucleic acid, either DNA or RNA. Although most viruses consist of only a few thousand molecules, nature has arranged those molecules into a menagerie of shapes. There are viruses that look roughly spherical under the electron microscope, but whose exact geometry is an icosahedron, a shape with 20 triangular faces. There are also rod-shaped viruses. The rod actually has two layers wrapped together. At the center is a strand of nucleic acid, while the outside is protein spirally wound in a long helix. Probably the most dramatically shaped viruses are called phage. If you think they look like a spacecraft, you're not alone. The top of a phage is a hollow protein capsule that contains nucleic acid. Beneath that is a shaft called a sheath. And attached to the sheath are leg-like tail fibers. A virus carries only the essentials of existence: a strand of nucleic acid imprinted with the formula for survival, and a strategy to reproduce that precious information, generation after generation. In the complex world of living creatures, the bare minimum simplicity of the virus is striking. Compared to a virus, even a one-celled animal seems like a great factory, performing and coordinating hundreds of tasks. There are cell parts for processing energy, parts for locomotion, and even parts for maintaining the proper balance of fluids. Placing a virus into a protist cell would be something like placing a person into the center of a major city. Both are dwarfed by the large and complex structures that surround them. Without all the machinery of life, how do viruses survive? How do they reproduce? A virus is dependent on a living cell for survival, a host cell. In a way, a virus is a parasite. It attacks a host cell and takes over its chemical machinery for making proteins and nucleic acids. One of the better understood virus life cycles is phage, a virus which attacks bacteria cells. The phage begins its assault by attaching itself to the cell wall of the bacteria. This attachment is very specific, and each type of phage can only attach to a certain type of bacteria. Next, the phage breaks down the cell wall, and the nucleic acid from this capsule is injected through the hollow tail into the cell. The viral nucleic acid uses the cell's enzymes and organelles to replicate new viral parts. The parts are assembled into new virus particles called virions. Finally, the new phages release an enzyme which weakens the cell wall, and the host cell bursts, releasing the virions. Up to 300 new virus particles can be reproduced in a single host cell. This process of viral multiplication is called the lytic cycle. Interestingly, the lytic cycle does not always happen immediately. Sometimes, rather than producing virions, phage nucleic acid incorporates in the host cell DNA. Now, each time the cell divides, the phage DNA is also reproduced and is spread to more and more cells. Then suddenly, for reasons that are still unclear, the phage DNA activates and the destructive lytic cycle begins. Once again, the host cell is destroyed, and a new generation of phage are released to invade new hosts. Plant cells also play host to viruses. Often the virus is injected through the cell wall by insect carriers, such as aphids and whiteflies. There's no mistaking the vigorous look of a healthy plant, like this melon. But when infected with a virus called zucchini yellow mosaic, leaves become blistered as the virus destroys broad patches of cells. Fruit is also susceptible to viral disease. Here, pepper mottle virus causes discoloration and withering of these bell peppers. Probably the best studied plant virus is this one, tobacco mosaic. Back in the 1890s, it was the first virus to be identified as the cause of a disease. Later, it was also used in classic experiments that would reveal the particle nature of a virus. Animal cells are also invaded by viruses. In fact, viruses are responsible for a large number of diseases, including rabies, hepatitis, and cholera. Some viral diseases can even be transmitted between species. For example, cowpox can be contracted by humans handling diseased herds. The list of human viral diseases is also very long. Yellow fever, influenza, smallpox, herpes, and one of the most highly studied human ailments, polio. The polio virus attacks certain kinds of nerve cells, and for thousands of years, it killed and crippled, especially children. In the spring of 1954, that was about to change. Dr. Jonas Salk and his research team at the University of Pittsburgh developed a polio vaccine. The effort started small, Dr. Salk and his team immunizing a few thousand students in the Pittsburgh area. But soon, it became a nationwide mobilization to protect every child against the polio threat. Salk's vaccine and the vaccine developed later by Albert Sabin were a complete success. And in countries where the vaccines were used, polio all but vanished. No more withered legs, no more withered lives. Today, vaccines play a part in all of our lives. But how does a vaccine work? It takes advantage of the body's own natural defense against infection, called immunity. When a virus or a foreign bacteria enter the body, special blood cells called phagocytes seek out and destroy the invader. This picture shows phagocytes colored in red in pursuit of several rod-shaped bacteria colored in green. As a second line of defense, molecules called antibodies also are produced in response to an infection. Antibodies are highly specific. The protein shell of a virus triggers the production of a particular type of antibody. In turn, the antibody is effective only against that particular virus. Antibodies attach themselves to the protein shell of the virus and render the virus inactive and make it easier for the phagocyte to finish the virus off. What a vaccine does is stimulate antibody production, and in many cases, a vaccine is nothing more than a solution of inactive viruses. Polioviruses for polio vaccine, smallpox viruses for smallpox vaccine. The first step in making a vaccine is isolating the virus you want to control. This is done by applying viruses to a culture of host cells. After a while, clear patches in the culture appear, showing where cells have been destroyed, which is also the location of the virus. Antibodies are effective only if there is an exact match at the antigenic site, the white spots on the virus shell. If these sites change, antibodies cannot attach, and our immune system cannot protect us.
Some genetic mutations in viruses alter their surface structure such that they're no longer recognized by antibodies. This kind of mutation is responsible for periodic epidemics of some viral diseases, such as influenza.
Because a disease virus can have many different varieties or be very changeable, it is sometimes impossible to develop a vaccine against it. A quick change virus is hard to stop, but there are some things even worse. Imagine a virus whose target is the very immune system cells that defend against infection. That nightmare has become real, and it is called the AIDS virus. Human immunodeficiency virus, HIV for short. They are engulfed by phagocytes, but they are not destroyed, and they go on to attack the cells that produce antibodies, leaving the body defenseless. HIV is one of those viruses that does not go into its cell-destroying lytic cycle right away. In fact, the nucleic acid of HIV can reside in our blood cells for years, causing no discomfort, no symptoms. The only way to see it is with a blood test. That fact makes HIV a dangerous epidemic threat. Medical research to cure or control AIDS is working along several directions, from drug therapy to vaccines. But the most powerful defense against HIV or any disease virus is understanding it. Remember, a virus is just a parasite, and like any parasite, it must be passed from host to host. From what we know now, the AIDS virus is transmitted sexually, as well as in blood and blood products. Stop the transmission, and you stop the virus. Although viruses have always been a part of our world, we have still managed to survive. One step at a time, we have learned about viral disease, and one step at a time, we are learning how to stop it.
I'm checking. I think the microphone is on. I'm sorry about that. I was trying to click the scanner sound to work, and it turned everything off. So, my bad. Anyways, what I had said before was I was reading some of the things on the program notes about what does snake charming mean to you if you were a tourist in Colombo, if you were Martin or Raja. And I should say the snake charming footage was pretty insane, awesome. But my favorite thing was actually the warthog who was like rubbing his belly on the tree and kind of going, oh yeah, scratching, oh yeah, that's good, oh yeah. I was like, man, that is idyllic. And just for some reason resonated with me in some weird way. So the virus film, fascinating. And I should say, I think my family had a recent exposure to COVID, because we kind of let our guard down a little bit. And so now we have to cancel all of our plans. And I think that's where we're at in this is, not as many people are getting really sick from COVID, but plans are being canceled. And so please be careful in this upcoming week. There's a lot of family travel and stuff. And even though COVID doesn't make a lot of people as sick as it used to, it can make some people really sick and can really cause some issues. So just be cautious. And also the flu, all these things are about getting vaccinated and all that stuff. That's my PSA. I'm not interested in anybody who says that vaccines don't work. So there you go. But everybody have a great rest of your weekend. Or your weekend coming up. And I'll be back on Monday. Originally, I was not going to be here on Monday, but all those plans got canceled. So everybody take care. And I don't feel like I'm going to get it, but I'm taking precautions. So everybody, we'll see you on Monday.